What happens when a music legend sits down for what should be a simple interview, only to face questions that cut deeper than anything a critic ever dared? What happens when daytime TV's polished politeness cracks revealing the ugly truth about how the industry treats its own icons? The studio lights were blazing as Chaka stepped onto the set of The Jennifer Hudson Show. She moved with the grace of someone who had commanded stages for more than 5 decades. Her voice had shaped disco, funk, soul, and R&B. She wasn't just an artiste, was royalty. The queen of funk, and she deserves to be treated like one. Jennifer Hudson sat behind her desk, shuffling note cards with that bright, practiced smile talk show hosts perfect after years of forced enthusiasm. The audience was already warmed up, ready to clap on cue for whatever light-hearted segment they assumed was coming. They had no idea what they were about to witness. "Welcome back to the show," Jennifer said brightly. "I'm here with the incredible Chaka Khan, and we're going to talk about her amazing career." Chaka settled into the guest, chair poised, dignified, professional. She'd done thousands of interviews. This was supposed to be routine. A few questions about her latest project, a trip down memory lane, and a warm goodbye. But Jennifer had other plans. "So, Chaka," she began, leaning forward, "you've been in this business for a really long time." The phrasing was off immediately. Not "you've had an extraordinary career" or "your influence spans generations." Instead, Jennifer chose words that made Chaka's 5 decades of trailblazing sound like she had simply overstayed her welcome. Chaka's smile tightened. "Yes, I've been blessed to share my music with people for many years, and you've seen so many changes," Jennifer continued, smile still plastered on. "The music industry is completely different now. Artists today have to be more than singers, have to be performers, business people, social media stars." There it was subtle dig. The insinuation that Chaka came from an easier era, as if building a career without the internet, without streaming, without social media while battling an industry openly hostile toward women, especially black women, had been simple. "Well, Jennifer," Chaka replied, her tone still controlled but cooling fast. "We had to fight for everything back then. No shortcuts, no auto-tune, no safety nets. One shot in the studio, and you'd better make it count." Jennifer laughed, but it wasn't warm. "Oh, I'm not saying it was easy. I just think artists today have more challenges. Competition is so much fiercer now." Chaka's eyebrow lifted just slightly. Fiercer now. This young host, sitting comfortably behind a desk on her own talk show, was lecturing Chaka Khan about competition. Chaka had gone toe-to-toe with Aretha Franklin, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder. She had fought for radio play when stations refused to play music by black women. She built her career note by note, gig by gig, in an industry run almost entirely by men. "Competition has always been fierce," Chaka said, her voice sharpening. "The difference is, we didn't have reality shows to make us famous overnight. We had to earn our place." The audience shifted uneasily. This was not the scripted, cheerful conversation they expected. Jennifer's smile strained further. Of course," she said, trying to recover. "Your hits like I'm Every Woman and Ain't Nobody are still so popular. Although I have to ask, do you ever feel like your style of music is becoming a little outdated?" The question hung in the air like a slap. Silence swept across the studio. Even the cameras seemed to hesitate. Chaka looked at Jennifer with a stare, powerful enough to stop a clock. Outdated, the woman whose voice shaped Whitney Houston. The woman Beyoncé cites as a core influence. The woman whose live vocals still outshine half the industry today. Outdated? Chaka repeated, her voice dangerously soft. Jennifer must have realized she'd crossed a line, but instead of backing down, she pushed further. "Well, you know, music today is different. More electronic. More produced. Young people want something they can relate to. Are you suggesting, Chaka said slowly, each word sharp as glass, that my music isn't relatable? That 5 decades of songs people have lived, loved, mourned, and celebrated with are somehow less meaningful than whatever auto-tune trend is hot this week? The temperature in the room dropped instantly. Jennifer's smile finally cracked. I didn't mean it like that, she said quickly, but the damage was already done. Asterisk, I just meant that the sound has evolved, Jennifer said weakly. Evolved. Chaka leaned forward, eyes blazing. Baby, I was evolving before you were born. I was mixing genres when people thought it was impossible. I was writing songs about women's empowerment when that was considered revolutionary. Don't you dare sit there and tell me about evolution. Jennifer looked like she wished she could disappear into her chair. She had lit this match and now she was standing in the fire. I think there might be some misunderstanding, Jennifer began. There's no misunderstanding, Chaka cut in, her voice rising just enough to slice through the studio's artificial politeness. You invited me on your show to disrespect me, to make me look like some old relic who doesn't understand modern music. Let me tell you something about modern music, sweetheart. Half these young artists you're talking about sample my songs. They build their hits on my foundation. And you want to call me outdated? The audience was completely silent, now frozen, wide-eyed, some uncomfortable, others riveted. It was like watching a masterclass on how to handle disrespect. Chaka, I really think we're having a miscommunication. Jennifer tried again. I have nothing but respect for your legacy. Legacy? Chaka stood up slowly, towering over the room. Honey, I'm not legacy. I'm current. I'm present. And I'm not going to sit here while you treat me like some museum piece you dragged out for nostalgia points. Please. If we could just know, we couldn't just anything, Chaka snapped, her voice carrying the full force of the Queen of Funk. You had your chance to conduct a respectful interview with someone who paved the way for artists like you. Instead, you chose to be condescending and dismissive. That's on you, not me. Jennifer looked around desperately, silently begging her producers to cut to commercial, to intervening to stop this crash. But the cameras kept rolling, and Chaka Khan kept going. You know what your problem is? Chaka continued, voice slicing through the stunned studio. You think because you won a singing competition and got a few movie roles that you understand this business? You think you can sit behind this desk and judge artists who are changing the world while you were still in diapers? The words hit with the weight of truth. Jennifer's face flushed deep red. She had officially lost control of her own show. I never meant to judge, she whispered, sounding small and hollow next to Chaka's commanding presence. But that's exactly what you did, Chaka replied, grabbing her purse with slow, deliberate finality. And the sad part? You probably don't even realize how disrespectful you're being. That's what makes it worse. The studio felt like a pressure cooker. No one dared breathe. Chaka, please, let's take a breath and start over, Jennifer pleaded. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Start over. Chaka repeated, voice hardening. Honey, there is no starting over from disrespect. You don't get to insult someone and then ask for a do-over when you realize you've messed up. I wasn't trying to insult you, Jennifer insisted, panic rising. I was just talking about how the music industry has changed. By calling my music outdated? Chaka shot back. By suggesting real artistry is less valuable than whatever manufactured nonsense is topping the charts this week. That wasn't a conversation. That was an attack. Jennifer's eyes darted desperately around the studio, searching for help. None came. She had created this disaster, she would have to sit in it. Look, maybe I chose my words poorly, Jennifer tried again, voice shaking. But I was genuinely interested in your perspective on how things have changed. No, you weren't, Chaka said bluntly. You were trying to make yourself look relevant by making me look irrelevant. You were trying to position yourself as the face of modern music by framing me as a relic. That's not journalism. That's just mean. The words struck the room like lightning. Even crew members behind the cameras shook their heads. Everyone could see what had happened, and it wasn't pretty. Jennifer's composure cracked completely. "I would never try to make you look irrelevant," she whispered. "You're a legend. Everyone knows that." "Then why didn't you treat me like one?" Chaka demanded. "Why did every one of your questions have a backhanded insult buried in it? Why couldn't you just ask me about my music without suggesting it doesn't matter anymore?" Because Jennifer started and then stopped. For the first time, her expression shifted just a flicker. A moment of truth threatening to break through the facade. For a moment, it looked like she might actually confess what had driven her to sabotage the interview. "Because you what?" Chaka pressed. "Because you thought you could get some viral moment by being disrespectful to someone. Been in this business longer than you've been alive. Because you thought putting down a legend would somehow make you look bigger?" Jennifer's face went pale. Chaka had hit the nail on the head, and everyone in the studio knew it. This wasn't an accident or a miscommunication. This was calculated disrespect designed to create drama. "That's not true," Jennifer said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Isn't it?" Chaka challenged. "Then explain to me why you invited me here just to question whether my music still matters. Explain why you thought it was appropriate to suggest that I don't understand the modern music business. Explain why you felt the need to talk down to me like I'm some confused old woman who wandered onto your set by mistake." The audience was completely captivated now. This wasn't just an argument between two celebrities. This was a masterclass in dignity under fire. Chaka Khan was showing everyone how to respond to disrespect with class and power. Jennifer tried one more time to salvage the situation. "Chaka, I think you're misinterpreting my intentions. I have so much respect for you and your career. I grew up listening to your music. Then you should know better," Chaka snapped. "If you really grew up listening to my music, then you understand what it means. You know that songs like I'm Every Woman weren't just hits. They were anthems. They gave people strength. They changed lives. And you want to sit there and call that outdated?" "I didn't call it outdated," Jennifer protested weakly. "Yes, you did," Chaka replied without hesitation. "You asked me if I felt like my style of music was becoming outdated. Those were your exact words. Don't try to rewrite history when we're all sitting here remembering what you just said 5 minutes ago." The camera operators were capturing every word, every look. This was the kind of unscripted television that rarely happens. And they were recording every devastating moment of it. Jennifer looked like she was drowning. "I was asking about musical evolution, not suggesting that your music doesn't have value." By framing it as outdated versus modern, Chaka shot back. By acting like artistry is somehow less important than being a social media star. You weren't asking about evolution. You were making judgments. "I wasn't making judgments," Jennifer insisted, but even she didn't sound convinced anymore. "Then what would you call it?" Chaka asked, her voice rising with righteous anger. "What do you call sitting there suggesting that my 5 decades of groundbreaking music somehow doesn't measure up to whatever auto-tuned, computer-generated, focus group-tested nonsense is popular this week?" The words hit like bullets. Jennifer flinched with each one. Finally, understanding the full scope of what she had done wrong. "I never said your music doesn't measure up," Jennifer said desperately. "You didn't have to say it directly," Chaka replied. "You implied it with every question. You implied it when you suggested that artists today have more challenges. You implied it when you asked if my style was outdated. You implied it when you acted like being a social media star is somehow more impressive than changing the course of popular music. The studio was so quiet, you could hear the air conditioning hum. Everyone was watching this legendary artist systematically dismantle a host who had thought she could. Score easy points by being dismissive. Jennifer made one final attempt to salvage something from this wreckage. Chaka. I'm sorry if my questions came across the wrong way. That wasn't my intention. Your intention doesn't matter anymore, Chaka replied coldly. What matters is what you actually did. And what you did was invite a music legend onto your show just to disrespect her on national television. That says everything anyone needs to know about your character and your professionalism. Please don't say that, Jennifer begged, her voice almost breaking. I really didn't mean any disrespect, Jennifer pleaded. That's what you delivered, Chaka replied without mercy. And the worst part is, you probably still don't understand why what you did was so wrong. You probably think I'm overreacting to some innocent questions. Jennifer opened her mouth to respond. But Chaka wasn't finished. Let me explain something to you, Chaka continued, her voice carrying the weight of decades of experience. When you've been fighting for respect in this business as long as I have, you learn to recognize disrespect in all its forms. And honey, you served me a full plate of it today. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Some started looking at Jennifer with disappointment rather than sympathy. The tide had turned completely against the host. I don't know what to say, Jennifer admitted, her voice small and defeated. There's nothing left to say, Chaka replied, adjusting her purse strap with finality. You said everything you needed to say with your questions. Now I'm saying everything I need to say with my response. The moment hung there like a sword, ready to drop. Everyone in that studio knew. They were watching something unprecedented unfold. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. Jennifer Hudson sat behind her desk, looking like she had been hit by a truck, while Chaka Khan stood there, radiating the kind of power that comes from knowing you're absolutely right. Finally, Jennifer broke the silence with one last desperate attempt. Chaka, what can I do to make this right? Chaka looked at her with something that might have been pity. You can't make this right. Some things can't be undone once they're done. You chose to be disrespectful, and now you have to live with the consequences of that choice. Surely there's something, Jennifer pleaded. Some way we can move past this. Move past it. Chaka's voice carried a bitter laugh. You want to move past the fact that you used your platform to diminish a woman who helped build the foundation that your career stands on. You want to just sweep under the rug that you thought it was okay to call music that has inspired generations outdated? Jennifer looked around the studio again, her eyes wide with panic. Asterisk, I never meant to diminish you or your music. What you meant doesn't change what you did, Chaka replied sharply. And what you did was show your true colors. You showed everyone watching that you think success gives you the right to look down on the people who came before you. The audience was transfixed. Phones were out. People were recording. They knew they were witnessing something that would be talked about for years. That's not who I am, Jennifer said, her voice cracking. Then who are you? Chaka challenged. Because the person I've been talking to is someone who thinks she can insult legends and get away with it. Someone who believes being on television gives her the right to judge artists who are changing the world before she was even born. Jennifer's eyes filled with tears. But Chaka did not soften. You want to know what's really sad? You had a chance to have a real conversation with someone who's been through everything this business can throw at you. You could have asked about the struggles, the victories, the lessons learned. But instead, you wasted everyone's time with questions designed to make me look irrelevant. I'm so sorry, Jennifer whispered. But the words sounded hollow in the tense air. Sorry doesn't fix this, Chaka replied coldly. Sorry doesn't erase the disrespect. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you treated me like some museum piece you dragged out for ratings. The cameras captured every moment of Jennifer's unraveling. This was television gold, but it came at the total destruction of the host's credibility. Please, Jennifer begged. Please don't leave like this. Chaka stopped and turned back, her posture regal and unshaken. Like what? With my dignity intact. With my self-respect. With my head held high because I refused to let someone half my age talk down to me on national television. Jennifer tried. You just what? Chaka demanded. You just thought you could get away with it? You assumed I'd sit quietly and take whatever disrespect you dished out. You figured that because I'm from an older generation, I wouldn't defend myself? Each question hit like a physical blow. Jennifer seemed to shrink in her chair. That's not what I thought. She protested weakly. Then you're either lying, Chaka shot back, or you're not as smart as you think. Because everything about your behavior today suggests that you thought exactly that. The studio fell into a heavy silence. Every person there was watching a masterclass in self-respect. I don't know how to fix this. Jennifer admitted, barely above a whisper. You can't fix it, Chaka said brutally. Some mistakes are permanent. Some disrespect can't be undone. All you can do now is learn from it and pray you never make the same mistake again. Tears streamed down Jennifer's face. Will you ever be able to forgive me? Chaka paused, the fierce anger in her eyes cooling slightly. Maybe, someday. But forgiveness has to be earned. And earning it starts with understanding what you did wrong, really understanding it. Not apologizing because you got caught. I'm trying to understand, Jennifer said desperately. No, you're trying to make this go away, Chaka corrected. You're looking for magic words that will fix what you broke. But understanding means accepting that you used your platform to tear down instead of build up.